The last thought you hold before you drift into sleep is the seed you plant in the fertile soil of the infinite. That quiet moment between wakefulness and slumber is not merely a passage into rest, it is a doorway into creation. You are never more powerful than you are in that stillness. In that twilight space, the veil is thinnest, and the soul speaks directly to the universe. Now understand this truth deeply. Everything begins in imagination. What you imagine, especially with feeling, becomes the blueprint for what is to come. There is no outer world separate from the inner man. What you experience outwardly is but a reflection of what has been entertained inwardly. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are conscious of being. And so, just before sleep, when the mind is no longer resisting, no longer questioning, and the body lies quiet and receptive, that is your sacred hour. That is the moment to speak to the infinite, not with desperation, but with certainty. Do not beg the universe. Do not plead or wish. Assume. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Take your desire and clothe it in reality within your imagination. Let us say you desire love. You do not go to sleep longing for love, hoping for love. You go to sleep as one who is already cherished, already chosen, already held in loving arms. You feel it so deeply that your body reacts, your heart may flutter, a smile may emerge. And as you descend into sleep, this feeling imprints upon the subconscious, and the universe, ever obedient, begins its mysterious process of unfolding your world accordingly. Perhaps it is abundance you seek. Again, you do not fall asleep thinking, one day I will have. That day never comes. You fall asleep with the consciousness of already having. You imagine the joy of freedom, the relief of bills paid, the gratitude for overflowing provision, not as fiction, but as fact. For to your deeper mind, there is no difference between what is imagined and what is experienced. It is impressed just the same. The world you see is not happening to you, it is happening through you. The secret is not in effort, not in struggle, but in alignment. And alignment is achieved through belief. Belief in the reality of the unseen. That belief must not be hollow, it must be felt. That is the currency of creation. So tonight, before you close your eyes, ask. But ask as one who already has. Do not say, I want this. Say within. Isn't it wonderful that I have this? And smile. Rest in that joy. Rest in that assumption and allow the sacred machinery of your deeper self to take over. The world will rise to meet you in the image you hold of yourself. Let that image be formed in love, in confidence, in certainty. As you sleep, the infinite molds the unseen substance of reality to match the pattern you have impressed upon it. And when you wake, do not seek proof. Live as though it is already done. Walk as though you carry the thing you asked for within you. Because you do. You are not a beggar in the kingdom of heaven. You are a creator. And the universe is not deaf. It is responsive, precise, and utterly faithful to the impressions it receives. Let tonight be different. Let tonight be sacred. Let your last thought be a declaration, not a wish. Feel it real, and it will be. When you speak to the universe, your words are not just sounds. They are signals. These signals are not received by some distant power in the sky, but by the very center of your own being. The universe you are speaking to is not out there, it is within. It hears not what you say, but how you feel when you say it. This is why desperation fails. Desperation is a declaration of lack. When you ask in desperation, you are affirming to the universe that you do not have, that you are separate from what you desire, and this separation becomes your experience. The creative power that shapes your world does not respond to pleading. It responds to knowing, to certainty. Faith is not merely hoping something will happen, it is the confident assumption that it already has. The universe mirrors what you are conscious of being. If you believe you are poor and plead to be rich, you are reinforcing the state of poverty. But if you rest in the feeling of abundance and ask from that place, not to get, but to acknowledge what already is, then the unseen becomes seen. The unmanifest begins to take form. Certainty speaks with authority. It does not question, will this happen? It declares, it is done. There is a stillness in that kind of faith, a quiet power. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't bargain. It simply is. When you align yourself with this certainty, you align with the laws that govern creation. You become like the seed that knows it will become a tree. The seed does not wish for growth, it contains the knowing within itself. Asking the universe is not about using the right words. It's about embodying the right feeling. To ask with confidence is to step into the role of the creator. You do not ask for rain while holding an umbrella just in case it doesn't come. You ask, and then you prepare for its arrival because you know it is already on the way. This is the posture of faith. Not trying to force the outcome, but allowing the outcome to unfold because you trust the process. Think of a child asking a loving parent for something. When that child is secure in the love of the parent, they ask freely, with joy, with certainty. They expect the answer to be yes. That expectation comes from relationship, knowing that they are cared for, provided for, and heard. But when a child is unsure of their worth, unsure of their place, they ask hesitantly, nervously, full of fear. One request comes from alignment with love, the other from separation. The universe responds to us the same way. When you know who you are, when you know your own creative power, you do not need to plead. You simply state what is. Desperation is born of disbelief. It says, I don't trust that this will happen unless I push, unless I cry out, unless I do more. But the truth is, the more desperate you are, the more you reinforce your own powerlessness. The more you strive, the more you declare that what you want is not already yours. The creative process is not about effort, it is about surrender. Not the surrender of giving up, but the surrender of knowing that it is already done. The state you enter before sleep is where this asking must take place. But remember, ask not with longing, but with presence. Feel into the state of already having. Let your heart relax into the joy of receiving. Let your imagination craft the scene where you are living the reality you desire, and let that be your final impression before you drift into the subconscious world. That is when the real work begins. Not your work, but the work of the deeper self, the infinite intelligence within. So when you ask the universe, do it from a place of peace. Let it be a statement of truth, not a cry for help. Say thank you, as though it's already done. Feel the outcome before it comes. And most importantly, know that you are not separate from the thing you desire. You and your desire are one. And the moment you believe that deeply, without resistance, it begins to move toward you, not in chaos, but in perfect order. The moment before sleep is not just a pause in your day, it is a portal, a threshold between the conscious and the subconscious, between the seen and the unseen, between the world you know and the world you are creating. Most people overlook this sacred moment, thinking of it as simply a time to unwind, to mentally wander, or to relive the troubles of the day. But what happens in that delicate, drowsy space just before you slip into sleep is more powerful than most ever realize. It is the time when your conscious mind, the gatekeeper, begins to loosen its grip, and your subconscious mind becomes highly receptive. This is your most fertile ground for planting the seeds of desire. Your subconscious is the builder of your reality. It does not reason, it does not judge, it accepts. It is like soil. Whatever you sow into it with repetition, emotion, and focus, it nurtures and brings forth in form. But it doesn't respond to idle thought. It responds to belief, to feeling, to vivid imagination. And in the state just before sleep, you naturally enter a rhythm where imagination becomes more potent and resistance dissolves. The critical faculties of the mind soften, and you are able to bypass doubt. That is why this time is sacred. It is your direct access to the creative engine within. You have likely noticed that when you go to bed anxious, you often wake up anxious. When you fall asleep dwelling on lack, on fear, on what's missing in your life, your dreams follow that thread, and your waking life soon mirrors the same. That is not coincidence. That is alignment. The subconscious mind is working constantly, taking the last instructions you gave it and running with them through the night. It works while you sleep, drawing circumstances, people, and opportunities into your path that match the feeling tone of what you impressed upon it. To use this moment consciously is to reclaim your power as a creator. Instead of letting your mind drift into fear, regret, or habitual worry, you deliberately take hold of it. You guide it into the scene of your choosing. You close your eyes and imagine, not vaguely, not as a wish, but as an inner experience, that which you desire most. You do not say, "One day I will have." You say, "This is mine now." You imagine a scene that implies the fulfillment of your wish, and you place yourself in it, not as an observer, but as the main character. You feel it, you hear it, you touch it. You sink into the atmosphere of it as if it were your reality, because in that moment, it is. And then you do not fight to hold on to it, you simply let go. You let sleep take over, while your mind carries the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That impression is powerful. It is like giving your subconscious mind a blueprint, a script. And because it is impressed in the state of drowsy relaxation, where the resistance of the waking mind is minimal, it is taken seriously, accepted deeply, and begins to shape your world accordingly. This is not magic in the fantasy sense. It is a natural law. The subconscious does not discriminate between real and imagined experience. What it receives with feeling, it accepts as fact. That is why fear creates real outcomes. That is why chronic worry produces the very events you try to avoid. And that is why conscious, deliberate imagining, especially in the state just before sleep, becomes the most efficient way to transform your life from within. You do not need to convince the world to change. You only need to impress your inner world with a new reality consistently and with feeling, especially at the gateway of sleep. That is when your thoughts are most impressionable. That is when you are closest to your source. In that quiet moment, there is no audience, no pressure, no noise, only you and the infinite intelligence within you. Speak to it, not with anxiety, but with certainty. Offer it not confusion, but clarity. Feed it not doubt, but desire clothed in fulfillment. The moment before sleep is not a routine, it is a ritual. And when used with intention, it becomes your most faithful servant in manifesting the life you truly want. Imagination is not a mere daydream or a child's toy. It is the very foundation of all creation. Everything that exists in the world around you was first conceived in the unseen realm of imagination. The buildings you walk into, the phone you hold, the clothes you wear, the books you read, each one was once a thought, an image, a vision in the mind of its creator. Before it ever took form, it existed in consciousness, and this is the great secret of life. Nothing comes into being unless it is first imagined. Imagination is the root, and reality is the fruit. If you look at your life closely, you will find that every experience you've had was first a feeling, a belief, a mental image. You may not have known it at the time, but you were imagining constantly. When you feared something might happen, and it eventually did, that was imagination working against you. When you hoped, dreamed, and visualized something wonderful and it arrived, that too was imagination in motion. The difference was never the process, it was the emotion and consistency behind the image. To imagine vividly is to create a blueprint for your future. The mind cannot distinguish between what is real and what is imagined when emotion is present. That's why athletes rehearse victory in their minds, feeling the moment of success before it ever happens. That's why performers visualize their finest performance. That's why inventors and creators see the completed vision before a single step is taken in the physical world. They understand this law. The outer world bends to the inner vision. But to simply see an image is not enough. It must be charged with emotion. Emotion is the fuel that powers the image. A lifeless thought has no magnetic pull. It cannot impress the subconscious mind. But a thought clothed in feeling is alive, vibrant, and active. It sinks into the deeper layers of consciousness, where it begins to shape circumstances. When you feel as though your imagined desire is already yours, you are no longer asking. You are becoming. That is the turning point from wish to manifestation. There is nothing more powerful than a mind convinced of its vision. When your imagination and your emotion align, the universe responds. You may not know how or when, but that is not your role. Your role is to imagine it clearly, feel it deeply, and accept it as already done. The laws of creation take care of the rest. You do not plant a seed and dig it up every day to check its progress. You plant, you water, you trust. Imagination is the planting. Feeling is the watering. Trust is the sunlight. People often believe that they need to change the world around them in order to feel different. But the truth is, the world changes because you feel differently. When you begin to imagine yourself as abundant, loved, successful, healthy, not just in fleeting thoughts, but in sustained inner knowing, you begin to shift your identity, and the world, being the mirror that it is, reflects that identity back to you. It must. That is its function. Imagination is not fantasy, it is the creative act itself. Fantasy is imagining with doubt. Creation is imagining with faith. And faith is simply the sustained assumption that what you imagine is already real. You don't need to see it to believe it, you believe it, and then you see it. The process begins within, always. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are the originator of them, whether consciously or unconsciously. So imagine wisely. Imagine not what you fear, but what you desire. Do not use your imagination to replay pain, failure, or worry. That too will be made manifest if it is done with feeling. Instead, become the architect of your inner world. Craft it with beauty, with love, with abundance. See yourself not as you were, or even as you are, but as you desire to be. Feel that version of yourself as real. Hear it, taste it, embody it, and then carry that feeling into the world, silently and confidently. Life will echo it back to you. The world is not outside of you, it is within, projected onto the screen of space. And that projection begins in the sacred, limitless power of your imagination. Pursuing the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the cornerstone of manifesting anything you desire. It is not about hoping, nor is it about waiting. It is about moving your inner world into alignment with the reality you wish to experience before there is any physical evidence of it. This is not pretending or make-believe. It is claiming your desire as real within the only place it must first exist, your consciousness. Most people go through life thinking that they will feel successful once they have achieved something, or they will feel loved once someone gives them love. But this is not how reality is shaped. It is not the condition that brings the feeling, it is the feeling that brings the condition. You are not waiting for something to happen in order to feel fulfilled. You feel fulfilled, and because of that, it happens. The outer world mirrors the inner state. It does not create it. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled means to inwardly dwell in the emotional atmosphere of your completed desire. You are not waiting for change, you are being the change. You walk through your days with the inner certainty that what you want is already yours. You do not ask, will it come? You say quietly, it is done. And though the world around you may still look the same, your inner world has shifted. And that shift must eventually be reflected in the outer world. It is love. This requires trust in the unseen and discipline of the imagination. It asks you to detach from appearances and live from the end. When you close your eyes and imagine yourself as the person who already has what you desire, you must feel what that version of you feels. What are you doing? Who are you with? What emotions are present in your body? Is it relief, joy, gratitude? That emotional state is the signal that activates creation. That feeling is the evidence that your assumption is alive. Feeding and wishing keep your desire at a distance. They affirm lack. They say, I don't have this yet, and I need it. But assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled says, I already have it. And your subconscious mind does not argue with you. It takes that assumption as truth and begins to rearrange circumstances to match it. This is not something you force. This is something you accept. You are not trying to manipulate the world. You are choosing to live in the state of your fulfilled desire and allowing the world to catch up. This is why you must go beyond mere visualization. Seeing the image in your mind is not enough. It must be charged with emotion. You must feel the experience. That is the secret. If you imagine wealth but feel poor, you are still creating from the feeling of lack. If you visualize love but feel unworthy, your dominant vibration is still aligned with loneliness. The key is to immerse yourself in the feeling as though it were already true. It is this inner conviction, this emotional knowing, that moves mountains. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you also stop needing signs. You no longer look for confirmation because you already know. The same way you don't look for proof that the sun will rise, you simply trust it will. So too, do you trust the unfolding of your desire. You relax into it. You walk differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself with a new vibration. This change does not go unnoticed by the universe. Life responds to who you are being. To live in the end means to discipline your attention. You do not let your mind drift into old stories, doubts, or fears. You bring it back again and again to the state of your fulfilled desire. You treat that state as your home, and the more you do this, the more it begins to feel natural. When it becomes natural, it becomes real. You are no longer trying to become, you already are. So when you find yourself wanting, shift immediately. Step into the feeling of already having. Let the desire be fulfilled within you in advance. Give yourself permission to feel the joy now, the security now, the love now. Assume the identity of the one who already has, and you will call that version of yourself into being. Not by force, but by natural law. As within, so without. The assumption held in feeling is the key to manifestation. It is not a technique, it is a way of being. Feeling is the vital ingredient that gives life to your imagination. It is not enough to merely see a picture in your mind or speak affirmations aloud. If those images and words are empty of emotion, they remain hollow and ineffective. The creative power within you does not respond to words alone. It responds to the feeling behind the words, the emotion behind the picture, the energy behind the desire. This is why feeling is the key to manifestation. Without it, you are not impressing the subconscious mind, you are merely passing time. When you feel something deeply, your subconscious receives it as truth. It does not analyze or question, it accepts what you emotionally affirm to be real. That is why worry manifests unwanted situations. When you worry, you are imagining something negative with feeling. You are rehearsing disaster. And because you feel it so strongly, your subconscious treats it as a command. It does not distinguish between good or bad, wanted or unwanted. It simply takes what you feel and works with it. The same law that brings about unwanted outcomes through fear and doubt is the very law that brings about miracles through joy, gratitude, and certainty. The key is the emotional tone. To manifest what you desire, you must feel that it is already so. You must inhabit the emotional reality of your fulfilled desire. Not someday, not in theory, but now, within yourself, when you feel as if your wish is already a fact. You are impressing your inner world with the blueprint that will soon be expressed in the outer world. This is not about pretending or faking. It is about choosing to identify with the version of yourself who already has what you seek. How does that version of you feel? What kind of peace, relief, or joy would you experience if your desire were realized this moment? That is the feeling you must generate and sustain. It is not always about visualizing in great detail. A simple image charged with powerful feeling will do more than 100 elaborate scenes without emotional depth. Feeling is the magnetic force that draws your desire to you. It is the language the universe understands. When you align your emotional state with your desired reality, you are in resonance with that reality. You become a vibrational match. The law of attraction is not about thinking your way into a new life. It is about feeling your way into one. Thought initiates, but feeling completes. This is why gratitude is so powerful. Gratitude is the feeling that something is already yours. When you feel grateful in advance, you are acknowledging that the gift has already been received. This emotional signature sends a clear signal to the subconscious that the manifestation has already taken place. And because the subconscious cannot tell the difference between a real event and one that is vividly felt, it begins to organize your life to match that feeling. The same principle applies to any desire, whether it is health, love, abundance, or peace. You must not only imagine it, you must feel the reality of it. You must wear the feeling like a garment. Let it become your atmosphere, your mood, your inner climate. The more you dwell in that state, the more natural it becomes. And when it feels natural, it must express itself outwardly, for nature always moves from within to without. This is why your emotional state is your true point of power. It is not about what others say or do, not about your current circumstances or history. It is about what you are feeling consistently. You are always creating, whether consciously or unconsciously, through the dominant feeling you carry. So the work is not in forcing the outside world to change. The work is in shifting your inner world, raising the emotional frequency until it matches the life you wish to live. This is the essence of manifestation. Imagining what you desire and feeling it to be real now. When you do this, you align with the truth that all things begin within. You stop waiting for evidence and start becoming the evidence. You stop seeking and start being. You feel it now, not later. And by feeling it now, you collapse time and allow the unseen to take form. You step into the reality that was always waiting for your permission to emerge. In the silence of your inner world lies the power to shape the life you desire. What you feel within yourself becomes the blueprint for what unfolds around you. You are not at the mercy of chance or fate. You are the architect of your reality. Every thought clothed in emotion, every feeling saturated with belief, becomes a seed planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious. So as you drift into sleep each night, remember that you are entering the gateway to creation. In that sacred stillness, imagine the life you desire as though it were already yours. Feel the joy, the peace, the gratitude of having it now. Let your body relax into the emotional certainty that all is well. All is unfolding perfectly. Do not beg or plead. Assume, believe, receive. Let your imagination become your sanctuary. Let your feelings become the force that moves mountains. For what you accept as true within must sooner or later become true without. The universe does not resist a mind aligned with faith and a heart filled with knowing. You are not separate from the creative power. You are that power, expressing itself through thought, emotion, and being. From the end. Assume the feeling and let the unseen arrange itself into the visible. Your world will shift not because you forced it to, but because you finally remembered who you are.